An HOA Karen tried to get her neighbor's dog put down, but she had no idea her neighbor was secretly the head of the entire county's animal control. You are not going to believe how this plays out. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more sweet revenge. Josh is the director of animal services for his county. It's a job he's incredibly proud of, and it's a role he's worked his entire life to achieve. He oversees animal control, the county shelter, and all related public outreach and education programs. Basically, if it has to do with four-legged, furry, or feathered residents in this county, it eventually crosses his desk. He and his partner recently bought their dream home in what they thought was a quiet, lovely little suburban neighborhood governed by an HOA. Now, I know what you're thinking. An HOA. The four-letter word that strikes fear into the hearts of homeowners everywhere. But the bylaws seemed reasonable. The neighborhood was beautiful, and the house was perfect. They have a 10-year-old pit bull mix named Blue. Blue is, without exaggeration, the laziest, sweetest, most gentle creature to ever walk the earth. He's a 75-pound sack of potatoes, whose primary interests include sleeping, snoring, begging for cheese, and leaning his entire body weight against any human who will stand still for more than 3 seconds. He is, in every sense of the word, a lover, not a fighter. His most vicious act is trying to lick you into submission. The problem started about a month after they moved in. A new neighbor, let's call her Carol, moved into the house directly across the street. Carol was in her late 50s, had that stereotypical, "can I speak to the manager" haircut, and carried a tiny, perpetually yapping Pomeranian named Prince Fluffybutt III. I'm not even kidding. That was his name. The first interaction was illuminating. Josh was in his front yard with Blue, who was on his leash, watering the flowers. Carol came marching across the street, her tiny dog straining at its leash and yapping its head off. Blue, being the curious potato he is, just sat down and tilted his head, his tail giving a few lazy thumps on the grass. Carol, however, looked at him like he was a fire-breathing dragon. "You need to get that thing under control," she snapped, yanking Prince Fluffybutt back so hard he yelped. Josh was taken aback. "Excuse me, he's just sitting here." She pointed a trembling finger at Blue. "That is a pit bull. They are inherently dangerous and unpredictable. I've seen the news. They just snap. You should not have that kind of animal in a family neighborhood." Ah, there it is. The classic, uneducated, media-fueled bias. Josh has spent his entire career fighting this exact brand of ignorance. He decided to take the educational approach. "Ma'am, with all due respect, that's a harmful stereotype. Any dog's temperament is based on individual personality and training, not breed. My dog is perfectly friendly." She just scoffed. "I don't care. It's a menace. It shouldn't be allowed near children or other pets. I'm on the HOA board, you know. I'll be watching you." And with that, she spun on her heel and marched back to her house, Prince Fluffybutt continuing his reign of terror with his high-pitched yaps. Blue just let out a big, goofy sigh and laid down on the lawn. That, my friends, was just the beginning. He knew right then this was going to be a problem. This wasn't just a concerned neighbor. This was a woman on a mission, fueled by prejudice and a baffling sense of self-importance. And being on the HOA board, that just added a layer of potential bureaucratic nonsense that he really did not want to deal with. But Josh had no idea how far she would actually take things. He had seen his fair share of difficult people through his job, from irresponsible owners to people making fraudulent claims. But he had never had that drama bleed into his personal life, right on his own front lawn. The situation escalated quickly. A few days after their first delightful encounter, Josh found a formal letter from the HOA in his mailbox. It was a warning citation. The violation? Possession of a dangerous and aggressive animal. It was, of course, signed by Carol, in her capacity as Neighborhood Safety Committee Chair. I mean, come on. Neighborhood Safety Committee Chair? Did she give herself that title? It sounds like something a hall monitor in elementary school would dream up. The letter cited a non-existent county ordinance and a vague HOA bylaw about nuisance animals. It demanded that he either muzzle Blue whenever he was outside, even in his own fenced backyard, or remove the animal from the premises. Remove him, as if he's a piece of trash to be thrown out. The nerve of this woman. Josh immediately knew this was a massive overreach. He knows the county ordinances like the back of his hand, because, well, he helps write and enforce them. There is no breed-specific legislation in their county. A dog is only declared dangerous after a thorough investigation by animal control, which involves bite history, documented aggression, and a formal hearing. Blue had a completely clean record. He was the model canine citizen. Josh decided his first step would be to address this professionally. He went to the next HOA meeting, armed with a copy of the county laws, Blue's veterinary records, his canine good citizen certificate from the AKC, and a hefty dose of patience. He waited for the open forum section and calmly presented his case. He explained his professional background without revealing his specific title, simply stating that he was an expert in animal behavior and local animal law. He corrected the misinformation in Carol's letter and pointed out that the HOA could not supersede county law. Several other board members seemed reasonable and a bit embarrassed. They apologized and said they were unaware Carol had sent the letter without a full board vote. But Carol? Oh, she was furious. She stood up, red-faced, and launched into a tirade. He's a specialist in lying, is what he is. I've seen that beast with my own eyes. It lunges, it snarls. She shrieked, gesticulating wildly. Josh just looked at her. Ma'am, my dog has never lunged or snarled at anything. The only time he's ever seen your dog, he sat down and wagged his tail, while your dog was barking uncontrollably. This, of course, only made her angrier. Are you calling me a liar? Are you calling my prince a bad dog? He's a show dog. He has papers. What does your monster have? A rap sheet. The audacity was just breathtaking. The meeting ended with the board president tabling the issue, promising to review the bylaws and consult with their lawyer. Josh left feeling frustrated but confident that the facts were on his side. But he had severely underestimated Carol's vindictiveness. She was no longer just a misinformed neighbor. She was an antagonist, a villain in her own little neighborhood drama, and she had cast his gentle, cheese-loving dog as the monster. It was about to get so much worse. Carol, not content with her public humiliation at the HOA meeting, decided to double down. Josh and his partner started noticing her lurking. She'd be peering through her blinds whenever he took Blue out. If they were in the backyard, playing fetch in their fully fenced yard, she'd be on her porch, phone in hand, clearly recording them. It was creepy and unsettling. The neighborhood kids loved Blue. They'd always ask to pet him when they were on walks, and he'd soak up the attention, his whole body wiggling with joy. After the HOA meeting, Carol started intercepting them. They'd see her marching over to the kids, saying things they couldn't quite hear but that were clearly directed at them and Blue. Soon, some of the parents started pulling their kids away when they saw them coming. Carol was poisoning the well, spreading lies that Josh's sweet, elderly dog was a ticking time bomb. This was the part that truly infuriated him. Attacking him is one thing, but using fear to turn children against a harmless animal? That's a special kind of vile. Then came the anonymous calls to animal control. His own office. Of course, he wouldn't be the one taking the initial call, but his dispatchers would log it and send it to an officer for follow-up. The first call was a complaint about a vicious pit bull roaming the neighborhood. An officer went out, saw Blue was safely secured in Josh's house, and closed the call as unfounded. The second call, a few days later, claimed his dog was barking incessantly for hours. They have a camera in their living room. Josh checked the footage. Blue had slept on the couch the entire day, only getting up once to drink some water. Unfounded. Each time, a county vehicle and a uniformed officer would show up at his house. It was embarrassing, and he knew exactly what Carol was doing. She was trying to build a paper trail, to create a history of complaints that she could then use as leverage with the HOA, or in her mind, with animal control. His officers were getting annoyed. They knew him, and they knew Blue. They'd come to his door, sigh, and say, "Hey boss, we got another one." They knew it was bogus, but they had to follow procedure and respond to every call. It was a massive waste of their time and taxpayer money. It was also incredibly stressful for Josh's partner, who wasn't as accustomed to this kind of direct, personal conflict. He kept asking if they should just sell the house and move. But Josh is stubborn. He refused to be bullied out of his dream home by some ignorant, power-tripping woman. He started documenting everything. He saved the HOA letter. He made notes after every interaction with Carol. He saved the recordings from their indoor camera. He started wearing a small body camera on his walks with Blue. He was building his own file, and he had a feeling it was going to come in handy. The tipping point, the moment this whole thing went from a neighborhood nuisance to a full-blown declaration of war, came about a month later. It was the call that finally gave Josh everything he needed to not just end this, but to bring the hammer of justice down on Carol so hard she'd never forget it. He was at work, in a meeting with the county commissioners, when his phone buzzed with a text from his partner. It was a picture of an official animal control notice to seize sticker on their front door. His blood ran cold. That notice is only used in the most extreme cases, severe neglect, abuse, or after a dog has been officially declared dangerous, and the owner has refused to comply with court-ordered containment measures. It's the first step to legally impounding an animal, often for euthanasia. Josh's partner was panicking. The text read, "What is this? Carol is across the street yelling that they're finally taking the monster away." Josh excused himself from the meeting, his heart pounding in his chest. He immediately called his front office. His lead dispatcher, a wonderful woman named Maria who has been with him for years, answered the phone. "Maria, what is going on at my address? My partner just sent me a picture of a seizure notice." Maria sounded confused. "Boss, I don't know. There's no active call there. The last one was closed out this morning as unfounded. Let me check the officer logs." There was a pause, and the sound of typing. "Wait a minute. We just got a 911 transfer. A woman screaming that your dog just mauled her dog and attacked her. She's claiming she had to beat it off with a stick and that it's covered in blood. Oh my God. She said she thinks her dog is dead. They're dispatching a Priority 1 officer and a police unit right now." The world went quiet for a second. Mauling, blood, a stick. Blue wouldn't hurt a fly. He's scared of the vacuum cleaner. Josh knew. He absolutely knew it was a lie. A monstrous, calculated lie designed to get his dog killed. And in that moment, all his patience, all his professionalism, evaporated. This was no longer about bylaws or neighborhood squabbles. This was about his family. Carol had just threatened his family, and she had no idea who she had just done it to. He told Maria, "Get that officer on the phone. Tell them the director is en route to their location, code 3, and call the police supervisor. Tell them the same thing. I'm on my way." He hung up and sprinted to his car. The drive home, which normally took 20 minutes, felt like an eternity. He had his own official vehicle, complete with lights and siren, which he rarely used. Today, he used them. As he raced through the streets, his mind was a whirlwind of rage and fear. This was the nuclear option. A false report of that magnitude is a serious crime. She wasn't just trying to get Blue removed anymore. She was trying to have him destroyed, and she was using emergency services to do it. He had seen cases like this before from the other side. Panicked owners, their dogs impounded based on a false accusation, desperately trying to prove their pet's innocence. It's a bureaucratic nightmare, but this time, the system she was trying to weaponize was his system. Every procedure, every form, every officer, and every kennel in that building operated under his authority. She had picked a fight in his house, and he was about to turn on all the lights. As Josh screeched to a halt in front of his house, the scene was exactly as chaotic as he'd imagined. A police car and an animal control truck were already there, lights flashing. His partner was on the porch, looking pale and shaken, holding a bewildered-looking Blue by the collar, and there was Carol, the star of our little drama, putting on an Oscar-worthy performance for the officers. She was hysterical, clutching Prince Fluffybutt to her chest, wailing about the savage attack. Prince Fluffybutt, Josh noted, looked perfectly fine. Not a hair out of place, no visible injuries. Just yapping away as usual. He got out of his car, his director's uniform crisp, and his badge clearly visible. He strode onto the scene with an air of authority that immediately silenced everyone. The police officer and his animal control officer both turned, their eyes widening in surprise when they saw it was him. "Boss," his officer, a young man named Miller, said in disbelief. Josh ignored him for a moment and walked straight up to Carol. He looked down at the yapping Pomeranian, then back up at her tear-streaked face. His voice was dangerously calm. "Carol, what exactly is going on here?" She seemed momentarily confused by his presence, but her actress mode kicked back in. "This man," she shrieked, pointing at his partner. "His monster dog broke out of the house and attacked my poor prince. It tried to kill him. I had to fight it off. It was covered in blood. It's a menace and it needs to be put down today." Josh let her finish, his expression unreadable. Then he turned to Officer Miller. "Officer, have you examined her dog?" Miller, looking relieved to have a clear directive, said, "Yes, sir. I can't find any injuries. No bite marks, no scratches, no blood." Josh then turned to the police officer. "And you, officer, have you seen any evidence of an attack? Any blood on my dog? On the ground? On her?" The cop shook his head. "No, sir. The scene is clean, and her story has a few inconsistencies." Josh nodded slowly, then turned his gaze back to Carol. Her theatrical wailing had started to falter, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "Carol," he said, his voice dropping to a low, serious tone, "you reported that my dog, who you can see is perfectly calm and has no blood on him, mauled your dog, who appears to be completely unharmed. You are making this report to an officer of my department, and you are making it in front of a police officer." He took a step closer. "I am the Director of County Animal Services. This entire department, including the officer you are lying to right now, reports to me. You have not only filed a false police report, which is a crime, but you have knowingly filed a fraudulent report with a government agency in an attempt to have a non-dangerous animal destroyed. That is also a crime. It is, in fact, a felony in this state." The color drained from Carol's face. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. The crocodile tears vanished. Prince Fluffybutt gave a final, uncertain yap, and then fell silent, as if sensing the monumental shift in the power dynamic. She was looking at him not as her neighbor, but as a figure of authority who had just laid out, in very clear terms, the mountain of trouble she was in. She had no idea. She thought Josh was just some guy, some pushover she could bully with her fake HOA title. The look on her face when she realized that the system she had been trying to manipulate was his entire professional world. Oh, it was priceless. It was a cocktail of shock, fear, and the dawning, horrifying realization that she had messed with the absolute wrong person. She had brought a water pistol to a naval battle, and the flagship had just turned its cannons on her. The silence that fell over the street was beautiful. Josh's partner was looking at him with a mixture of awe and relief. The officers were standing by, waiting for his lead. Carol was frozen, her lies crumbling around her. Josh let the silence hang there for a moment longer, just to let the full weight of her stupidity settle in. "Then," he continued, "furthermore," he said, his voice echoing slightly in the quiet street, "my partner was home all morning. Our security cameras, which are motion-activated and record both video and audio, show that my dog has not left this house once today. In fact, they show him sleeping soundly on the sofa at the exact time you claim this vicious mauling took place." He gestured to his house. "So, not only do we have a lack of physical evidence, we have concrete time-stamped video evidence proving that your entire story is a fabrication." He turned to the police officer. "Officer, I want to press charges for filing a false police report and for misuse of emergency services." The officer nodded grimly. "Yes, sir." He then looked at his animal control officer. "Miller, I want a full report on this incident. Detail the false claim, the lack of evidence, and the fact that it is the latest in a series of harassing and unfounded calls from this same individual. We will be pursuing the maximum penalty for filing a fraudulent, vicious animal complaint." Miller's face was a mask of professionalism, but you could see the satisfaction in his eyes. "You got it, boss." Carol finally found her voice, but it was a pathetic squeak. You can't do this. I'm on the HOA board. I have rights." Josh gave a short, humorless laugh. "Your position on the HOA board is irrelevant. It's a neighborhood club, Carol, not a branch of government. And your rights do not include lying to law enforcement, wasting city resources, and attempting to have a family's pet killed based on your personal prejudice." He pointed a finger at her. "You have terrorized my family. You have slandered my dog. You have abused the system that I am sworn to uphold. This ends now." The police officer stepped forward and addressed her in a formal tone. "Ma'am, I need you to put the dog down and give me your identification. You are being detained for filing a false report." The sight of Carol, sputtering and indignant, being led to the police car was one of the most satisfying moments of Josh's entire life. Prince Fluffybutt was handed off to her bewildered-looking husband, who had come out of the house to see what all the commotion was about. As the police car pulled away with Carol in the back, the neighbors started emerging from their homes. They had clearly been watching the whole spectacle from their windows. Several of them came over, looking apologetic. One mom, whose kids used to love petting Blue, came up to Josh almost in tears. "I am so sorry," she said. "Carol told us all these horrible stories. We should have known better. Blue is such a sweet dog." Josh assured her it was okay, that he understood. The fear-mongering of one person can be powerful. Blue, oblivious to the drama he had caused, was happily getting pets from everyone who came over. He was the hero of the day, and all he had done was take a nap. The immediate aftermath was swift and glorious. Carol was charged with filing a false police report, a misdemeanor. The county attorney, a man Josh works with regularly, also decided to pursue the felony charge for the fraudulent animal complaint. Given the mountain of evidence against her, Josh's testimony, the officer's reports, the lack of any injuries, and the definitive video footage, her lawyer advised her to take a plea deal. She ended up with a hefty fine, a year of probation, mandatory community service, which, in a beautifully ironic twist, she had to complete at a local animal shelter, and a court order to have no contact with Josh or his family. But the legal consequences were only half of it. The HOA was the other half. Josh attended the next meeting, and this time, he came as the Director of Animal Services. He laid out the entire saga for the board and the dozen or so homeowners in attendance. He presented his file of evidence, the initial warning letter, his documentation of her harassment, the log of false calls to animal control, and a copy of the official police report and her subsequent charges. The board was mortified. They had allowed this woman, in her self-appointed role as safety chair, to use the HOA's name to harass a resident. They were staring down the barrel of a potential lawsuit from Josh for harassment and a massive liability issue. Carol was, of course, immediately and unanimously voted off the board. They issued a formal written apology to his family and made a donation in Blue's name to the county shelter. They also completely rewrote the bylaws regarding animal complaints, requiring concrete evidence and a full board review before any official notice could be sent. They essentially stripped all power from any single overzealous board member to ever do something like this again. The social fallout for Carol was just as severe. The story spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. She became a pariah. People would cross the street to avoid her. The other dog owners in particular were furious. She had not only targeted one dog, but she had also revealed herself as someone willing to lie and have any animal she didn't like destroyed. No one trusted her. Her husband, who seemed like a genuinely decent guy, was deeply embarrassed by the whole thing. Josh saw him a few weeks later, and he apologized profusely. He said he had no idea how far she had taken her dislike of pit bulls. He mentioned they were now in therapy. In the end, Josh and his family got exactly what they wanted, a peaceful life in their dream home. The walks with Blue became pleasant again. The neighborhood kids flocked to him, and their parents were now encouraging it. Blue got more pets and ear scratches than ever before. He remains the unofficial, lazy, cheese-loving mascot of their street. Carol's attempt to use the system to enforce her prejudice backfired in the most spectacular way possible. She tried to weaponize the rules, but she didn't realize she was firing her weapon inside the armory, with the master-at-arms standing right next to her. It's a powerful reminder that you should never, ever assume you know who you're dealing with. The quiet, unassuming neighbor you decide to harass might just be the one person on the planet with the power to bring your whole world crashing down. And honestly, she earned every last bit of the karma that came her way. And that, my friends, is what we call a checkmate. A glorious, beautiful, public checkmate. Man, you just love to see it. It's the ultimate Uno reverse card. She thought she was playing checkers, while our man Josh was playing 5D chess the whole time. The pure, unadulterated panic that must have shot through her veins when he said, "I am the Director of County Animal Services." I would have paid good money to see that. Like, front row tickets, popcorn, the whole deal. It's the real-life equivalent of a villain monologuing about their brilliant plan, only to have the hero reveal that the villain's entire plan relies on a device that the hero invented and can shut down with a voice command. It's just chef's kiss. And the best part is, Josh didn't even have to do anything shady. He just used the truth and the system, his system, to do its job. He let her build her own coffin, and then he just calmly handed her the final nail. What do you guys think? Have you ever had a run-in with a crazy HOA person, or someone with an irrational fear of your pets? Let me know your stories down in the comments below. And while you're down there, do me a solid and smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got more stories of justice to get to. All right, let's get a quick breather, and then we'll dive into our next story. This one comes from the world of food service, another place where Karens and Kens roam free, convinced that the customer is always right, even when they are profoundly, spectacularly wrong. This story is a beautiful example of malicious compliance. The title is, "A customer demanded I remake her steak 7 times, so I followed her instructions perfectly. Oh, this is going to be good. I can already feel the schadenfreude bubbling up. All right, let's jump in. I was the general manager of a mid-range but well-respected steakhouse for about 5 years. I'd seen it all. I'd dealt with marriage proposals, bachelor parties that got way out of hand, celebrities trying to be incognito, and of course, the endless parade of difficult customers. But there was one woman, one particular, Karen, who became a legend among the staff. She was the final boss of entitled diners. Let's call her Ms. DeVille. Ms. DeVille came in on a busy Friday night with a man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. From the moment she sat down, she was a problem. She complained that the table was wobbly. It wasn't. She sent back her water 3 times, claiming it tasted too much like minerals. She insisted on a specific brand of wine that we didn't carry, and then acted personally offended when I told her we couldn't just summon it out of thin air. The main event, however, was the steak. She ordered our most expensive cut, a 12-ounce filet mignon, and she had very, very specific instructions. She wanted it cooked medium rare, but with a hard sear on the outside. She specified, and I quote, "I want the outside to be dark, crispy, and charred, like it's been kissed by the flames of a dragon, but the inside must be a perfect, cool red center, not pink, red. If it's even slightly warm in the middle, it's overcooked." Now, any chef or experienced cook listening knows that these two requests are somewhat contradictory. A hard, crispy char requires intense, prolonged heat. A cool red center requires very little heat. It's possible to get close, a style often called black and blue or Pittsburgh rare, but it's a delicate balance. Our head chef, a man named Marco who had been cooking steaks for 20 years, knew exactly what to do. He cooked her a perfect Pittsburgh rare filet. The outside had a beautiful dark crust, and the inside was a deep, cool red. It was a textbook execution. The server brought it to her table. Ms. DeVille cut into it, poked the center with her fork, and immediately scoffed. She waved the server over. "This is raw," she declared, loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. "This isn't a cool red center, it's a bloody uncooked piece of meat, and the sear is weak. I said I wanted it charred. Take it back and have your chef do it correctly." The server brought the steak back to the kitchen. Marco looked at it, sighed the weary sigh of a man who has seen too much, and fired a new one. This time, he left it on the grill a few seconds longer to warm the center just a touch, moving it from blue rare to a more traditional rare. He also gave the outside an even harder sear. Out it went, and back it came. "Now it's warm in the middle," she wailed. "And the char is still not enough. It needs to be black. Do you people not understand English?" This went on, and I'm not exaggerating, 5 more times. 5. She sent the steak back a total of 7 times. Each time, her complaint was a moving goalpost. First, the inside was too red. Then it was too pink. Then the sear wasn't hard enough. Then the sear was good, but the inside was now medium rare, which is what she originally asked for but had apparently decided was now unacceptable. She was berating the server, who was on the verge of tears. She was holding the kitchen hostage, as Marco had to personally oversee each of her steaks, throwing off the timing for the entire restaurant. I had been monitoring the situation from afar, but after the 5th return, I decided it was time for me to step in. It was clear she wasn't looking for a good steak. She was looking for a free meal and a power trip. She was trying to create a problem so convoluted that I would have no choice but to comp her entire bill, just to make her go away. I had seen this tactic before. But Ms. DeVille was about to learn that I don't negotiate with culinary terrorists. I walked over to her table with a calm, pleasant smile. "Good evening," I said. "I'm the general manager. I understand we're having some trouble getting your steak just right." She launched into a diatribe about the incompetence of my staff, the poor quality of our meat, and how she had never been treated so poorly in her life. I let her finish, nodding sympathetically. And then I said the words that would seal her fate. "I apologize for our failure to meet your standards," I said smoothly. "It's clear that your palate is far more refined than we are accustomed to. So, here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have our chef cook your next steak, personally, with me supervising. But to ensure we get it absolutely perfect this time, I need you to give me the exact, precise instructions, and you and I will write them down together on this notepad. We will create a contract, if you will. You will sign it, and if our chef follows your instructions to the letter, then we will consider the matter settled. The steak will be considered perfect. Is that agreeable? A flicker of triumph flashed in her eyes. She thought she had won. She thought she was about to get a free meal and humiliate me in the process. Fine, she sniffed. But you'd better get it right this time. Oh, I intended to. I pulled out a pen and a notepad. All right, Ms. DeVille, I said, my smile never wavering. Let's cook you a steak. This was the moment the trap was set. Her arrogance was so immense, she couldn't see the jaws of the snare closing around her. She believed her demands were reasonable, that she was an Epicurean genius, and we were all just clueless line cooks. She had no idea that I was about to use her own words, her own ridiculous standards, as the weapon of her destruction. The man with her just sank lower in his chair, staring at his water glass as if it held the secrets to the universe. He knew this was a bad idea, but he was too far gone to stop the train. Okay, I began, pen poised. Let's start with the sear. You said you want it charred. Can you be more specific? How long should it be on our 800-degree grill? She puffed out her chest. It should be on there for at least 4 minutes on each side. I want a thick black crust. Not brown, black, like charcoal. I dutifully wrote it down. 4 minutes per side, got it. That will create a crust about a 1/4 inch thick. Now, for the inside. You said you want a cool red center. Can you define cool for me in this context? She waved her hand dismissively. It should be the temperature of a rare steak before it's been cooked. It should not be warm to the touch at all. It should be blood temperature. I nodded, scribbling away. Blood temperature. Excellent. So, to summarize, you want a 12-ounce filet mignon, placed on an 800-degree grill for 4 minutes on each side, for a total of 8 minutes of direct, high-heat cooking. But the internal temperature must remain cool, akin to its pre-cooked state. I paused, looking up at her with a perfectly straight face. Is that correct? She beamed, a smug, triumphant smile on her face. Yes, exactly. See how easy that was? Maybe you should be the chef, I smiled back. I'll pass that along. Now, if you'll just sign here at the bottom of the instructions, acknowledging that these are your explicit directions, we'll get this made for you right away. She grabbed the pen and signed with a flourish, as if she were signing a treaty in which she had won a great victory. She had no idea she had just signed her own culinary death warrant. I took the notepad, gave her a polite nod, and walked back to the kitchen, the signed contract in my hand. I walked through the swinging doors and held it up for Marco, my head chef. He read it, looked at me, read it again, and then a slow, wicked grin spread across his face. You want us to actually do this? He asked, a twinkle in his eye. To the letter, my friend, I replied. Give the lady exactly what she asked for. This was the beauty of malicious compliance. I wasn't being rude. I wasn't refusing service. I was providing the best, most attentive service she had ever received. I was following her instructions with the precision of a surgeon. The fact that her instructions were a physical and culinary impossibility was her problem, not mine. The kitchen staff, who had been tense and angry all night because of her, suddenly got a second wind. They gathered around to watch Marco perform this bizarre culinary experiment. It was a moment of beautiful, cathartic unity. Marco grabbed a fresh, beautiful filet mignon. He seasoned it generously. Then, he cranked one of the grills up as high as it would go. We all watched as he placed the steak on the searing hot grates. We started a timer. For 4 agonizingly long minutes, the steak sizzled and smoked. The smell of burning char filled the air. At the 4-minute mark, he flipped it. The side that came up was a solid, black, carbonized crust. It looked like a briquette. We then cooked the other side for another 4 minutes. The whole kitchen was filled with smoke. After a total of 8 minutes, he removed the steak from the grill. It was a blackened, smoking husk. It looked less like food and more like a fossil. But we weren't done. The second part of her instructions was the cool red center. So, to ensure we complied, Marco took the charred steak and placed it in our industrial walk-in freezer for 5 minutes. This would rapidly cool the exterior and ensure the interior, which had barely been warmed by the intense but brief cooking time, would be decidedly cool. We were following the instructions perfectly. After its brief cryogenic slumber, the steak was placed on a pristine white plate, garnished with a sprig of parsley, and I prepared to deliver it myself. I felt like a general leading a final, victorious charge. I carried the plate out of the kitchen, holding it aloft like a trophy. I approached her table, my best customer service smile plastered on my face. The man with her looked up, saw the monstrosity on the plate, and his face went pale. Miss Devil, however, looked ecstatic. From her vantage point, all she could see was the perfectly black, charred exterior she had demanded. "Now that," she said, clapping her hands together, "is what I'm talking about. Perfection." I placed the plate in front of her. "As you requested, madam, an 8-minute hard sear for a black charcoal crust and a cool red center. We followed your signed instructions to the letter. I do hope you enjoy it." She picked up her knife and fork, her smugness practically radiating off her. She sawed into the steak, and I say sawed because the carbonized crust was as hard as rock. It took a significant amount of effort for her to break through. When she finally did, the inside was revealed. It was, just as she'd requested, a completely raw, cool, red center. The intense heat for that long had created a thick, inedible layer of charcoal while completely failing to cook the inside. It was a lump of raw, cold beef encased in a burnt, bitter shell. It was the most disgusting-looking steak I had ever seen in my life, and it was exactly what she had ordered. The look on her face was a masterpiece of conflicting emotions. Her smug satisfaction warred with utter disgust. She poked at the raw meat, then at the burnt crust. Her brain was short-circuiting, trying to process the fact that this abomination was the physical manifestation of her own demands. What is this?" she stammered. "It's raw and burnt." I feigned a look of deep concern. "But madam, these were your instructions. I have your signature right here." I pulled the notepad out of my pocket. 4 minutes per side for a black crust. A cool red center. We followed them perfectly. This is the steak you designed." Her companion, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke up. "For God's sake, Carol, just eat the damn thing," he hissed under his breath. She shot him a venomous look and then turned back to me, her face turning a blotchy red. "This is ridiculous. I'm not eating this. And I'm certainly not paying for it. I've never been so insulted." This was the moment I had been waiting for. I dropped the cheerful manager persona. My voice became flat and professional. "Ma'am, you sent back 7 perfectly cooked steaks. You then entered into a signed agreement with the restaurant, dictating the exact preparation of this 8th steak. We have fulfilled our side of that agreement. The steak is prepared exactly as you ordered. Therefore, you will be paying for it. In fact, you will be paying for all 8 of them." Her jaw dropped. 8? That's outrageous. I'm not paying for food I didn't eat." "You ordered them," I replied calmly. "My chef cooked them. The fact that you kept changing your mind does not absolve you of the financial responsibility for the products you requested. You have cost my restaurant a significant amount of money in wasted product and have disrupted service for the entire dining room. This is the bill." I slid the check onto the table. It included all 8 filet mignons, her wine, and an automatic 20% gratuity added for the server she had tormented all night. The total was well over $400. She stared at the bill as if it were written in a demonic language. "I will not pay this. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the Better Business Bureau. I'm going to have this place shut down." "You are welcome to do that," I said, my voice still unnervingly calm. "And when the police arrive, I will show them this signed document. I will show them the security footage of you berating my staff, and I will show them the 7 other beautiful steaks you sent back for no reason. Then, I will explain to them the concept of theft of services, or you can pay your bill and leave my restaurant, and never, ever come back. The choice is yours." Her companion immediately pulled out his wallet. He was done. He threw a credit card on the table and said, "We'll pay. Just run the card." He wouldn't even look at her. Ms. Devil was apoplectic, but she knew she was beaten. She had been so busy building her own trap that she never realized she was the one who was going to get caught in it. As I walked away with the credit card, I heard her muttering to her companion, "This is all your fault. A classic Karen move. When all else fails, blame the person closest to you." I ran the card, brought it back with the slip, and wished them a very pleasant evening. They left without another word, Ms. Deville dragging her defeated fury behind her. The surrounding tables, who had been pretending not to watch the entire soap opera, broke into a quiet, spontaneous round of applause. My server came up to me, tears in her eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude. She gave me a hug and thanked me. The entire staff was buzzing. We had faced the final boss and won. That night, after we closed, I cooked up the remaining fillets for the staff, and we all had a steak dinner, toasting to our victory over the legendary Ms. Deville. And the story of the 8th steak, the charcoal and raw monstrosity born of pure, malicious compliance, became a cherished piece of restaurant lore. It was a reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with an unreasonable person is to give them exactly what they think they want, and that is a delicious ending. You absolutely love to hear it. Giving a Karen exactly what she asked for, knowing it will be disgusting, is a level of revenge that is just sublime. It's not just about winning the argument, it's about making them confront the sheer absurdity of their own demands. That signed note was a stroke of genius. It took the situation from a he said, she said, and turned it into an ironclad contract of stupidity, signed by the stupid person herself. And charging her for all 8 steaks? That's the vindictive cherry on top. It's not even just about the money at that point. It's about the principle. You don't get to waste our time, abuse our staff, and waste hundreds of dollars of product and then just walk away tangent-free. No, ma'am. There's a tax for being a terrible person, and tonight the bill is due. What a legend that manager is. I hope he's out there, somewhere, still fighting the good fight against the forces of entitlement. We salute you, sir. And that's a wrap for today's stories, my friends. 2 glorious tales of people who thought the rules didn't apply to them, only to find out that karma often has a very, very direct way of settling the score. From the HOA Karen who tried to take on the head of animal control, to the dining diva who got served a steak of her own making, it just goes to show you, be nice to people. It's really not that hard, and if you can't be nice, at least be smart enough to know who you're messing with. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed these stories, please do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Let me know in the comments which story was your favorite, and share your own tales of malicious compliance. I read every single one. Until next time, stay safe, be good to each other, and don't be a Karen. Peace out.